another one.
No,
too.
no. Okay, so give me my. I'm gonna get real perennial.
all right.
I read the court documents.
This feels tangential.
No kidding.
I read the
feels
court doc when like
tangential as
celebrities
hell.
Yeah.
when like celebrities get in trouble and like I just feel like we gotta lock Diddy up. Like
Okay.
like it is some cases like so. This is the
Okay.
thing. I'm not gonna ever not Harlem Shake.
Yeah.
I know that has
I never
Diddy's
got it
fingerprints on it.
down. I
Oh.
can get my shoulders
Brother,
shrugging,
I was throwing the hat in
but
the air.
and waiting on it.
It was
Oh, okay.
crazy.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
the leg in the air. It was nasty.
You was looking at your watch like, when's it
What?
gonna come back? All right, got it. All right, yeah.
And like, I'm not gonna stop that, but I do think that we might have to stone him.
Can
Like,
I ask you a question? You
Yeah.
read the documents.
yeah, he did that shit.
Mike, you straight from the south side. Mike, I'm just so happy to be here right now. Real Rap Podcast.
We're back once again, ladies and gentlemen.
Next, Vince McMahon did that shit.
wait a minute. On the Real Rap Podcast, I'm your host, Mike Knight. This is episode 39. I'm starting to get these down and remembering the number of your digs. And we just had... it's probably not gonna all make the final cut for just a warm-up conversation, but geez, man, found out a lot. I found out this brother Kyrie breaking down stereotypes. But anyway, I have my guest Kyrie the Comic Kathryn Gongaware. If y'all could do me a favor, let the people in the viewing audience know a little bit about yourself. How long you been in the city? How long you been in comedy game? What you got going on?
Ladies first.
Oh, right. I've been in Chicago in and out like 10 years. I'm from DMV area, but I got family up in New York, family in LA, so I have been in and out. And yeah, comedy here, like kind of coming up on 3 years, to be honest.
Okay.
Did like a couple things pre-COVID, but I wouldn't have called it committed. And then kind of dropped in and popped back up.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on me.
Yeah.
Kyrie the Comic here, man. Chicago, born and raised.
You got West Side vibes written all over you.
I am. I'm West Side as fuck, too.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't know what was it. Can you smell the Madison on me?
You know what I mean? Like you know how Wolverine knows another mutant when he sees one. Like, it's just something. I tell people like, yo, I've been here long enough. That's how you know that you're a hybrid Chicagoan when you can be like, oh, that nigga from over east.
That's funny. People tell me that like you West Side as hell, and it's like, how did you know?
It might be because I'm from out of town. I can pick it easier, but I don't.
I
Y'all
fit
got
the
that. Y'all got that
stereotype.
Chicago Spidey sense. I know y'all do. I know y'all
That's
do.
funny as hell, man. Yeah. Born and raised.
So when I go missing, it's
Yeah. They're gonna look for you on Chicago and Laramie.
They're gonna find her in Columbus Park. That's funny as fuck.
I live out Chicago too, so
That is hilarious.
Lost out.
All right, she's leaving clues. She's
Like
leaving
find
breadcrumbs.
me. Follow the mouse sauce fingerprint.
Hey, I want to let you get back to your
my
to your
intro.
spectacular
Yeah.
intro, but real quick, like I gotta say it because it's on my mind and my heart. If she had the Ray-Ban glasses like Macho used to wear on the top of her hat, don't she look like one of the white women that kills like giraffes in Africa?
Oh shit. A safari queen.
Sorry, out here. That sounds right.
Nah,
Yeah.
it's just a hat, but I love the gym shoes.
Thank you.
But yeah, no,
That's funny as
Kyrie.
hell. So my
Too
10th
big on my
year.
head?
No. The outfit,
Why too big on my
No, the
head?
fit is hard. Yeah, the fit is hard.
No, you just look
Yeah,
like
now
you
you have
have
to
you
reassure
look
me.
like you have so much money that you're bored and you're like, I want to kill something beautiful from Africa.
I do not, but I do know how to put together that look. So
The man says
You know how
something
to
from
look.
Africa. That might be a little ancestral. That motherfucker
I do
say.
know how to look like I look like I got Soho House money. I do not.
Come back with elephant ivory fucking iPhone case.
This is the rare tiger that we caught.
There's only 3 more left.
This little rascal here trying to get away.
Kyrie, your intro, please.
Okay, 10th year this December. Super
All right.
excited. Man, comedy is bae. And a part of me loving comedy, whether it be my background with like Second City or anything like that, or just writing. I think like you find different ways to express your love of comedy. And so
Yeah.
one of those cool things is like I always consider myself like a edutainer or like an artivist. And so me and Kathryn actually have a pod that we developed where we have a social impact. And so it's called Beyond Bars. And so with that podcast, we're actually able to reach out to people who have been impacted by the justice system directly or indirectly, and in varying amounts of degrees, right? So it could be someone who's been in and out of holding for a lot of time.
Sure.
Or maybe they went to juvie, or maybe they did 20 years. We want people's story to be told so we can start to humanize people, because humanization is a big component for decriminalization, right?
Yeah,
So we can't decriminalize somebody if I only see you as a criminal. So our podcast...
You are tightening up that intro so well. We're like 6 episodes in, and we're really trying to find the language around it.
I've been working on it. So yeah, so our goal is to humanize people, but also give them an opportunity to get money, right? So we pay our people because a big impact of the justice system is that people lose access to housing, opportunity with education, getting grants, employment. And so our pod is like a small nugget, but it's an opportunity for people to start to pull and find other people that are getting involved, because these brothers and sisters and people who identify in other ways are chefs. They are community leaders. They are mothers. They are fathers. They are sons. They are daughters. There's so much more than just a criminal. You know?
Shout out to Fane Salads that I still need to get delivered. But also, I mean, truthfully, as safari-related reparations.
And she looks like she wants things from Africa.
Because to your point, this is coming out of my pocket right now. We're gonna figure it out so that it doesn't perennially.
I mean, you had 100% Siberian snow leopard jacket. There's only 16 left of them.
And we're affiliated to, and what truly the guests are getting paid out with is all the work that we're doing with Prison Yoga Chicago.
How did you get into this particular avenue when it comes to like your podcast and social media?
I mean, I don't know. For podcasting, I maybe came up with the idea this summer or something, when I was like, I think people's stories are looking to be told. I've been in and out. Like I've been teaching yoga in jail for 10 years. So I'm kind of running a low-key open mic after some classes now. And like I work with mainly men now, but we do men and women in jail. But the men that are like the regulars in my class, like they're so funny, and they, just like everybody, all have something to say, and some of them are still being held with like cases not being heard. So there's like obviously a sort of, true justice impact motivation around this, and then there's like Kyrie's saying kind of an edutainment component too, because I just think humor and storytelling is such a powerful tool to do something. Like, I mean, I've been very honest. I don't know what the fuck this is yet. And like Kyrie's saying, we've had, 30-year in and out, like quote unquote career criminals turned like frontline, community support. We've had one of our board members who's a black woman who is also military police. We've had comedians. And everyone's got something a little different to say, like story-wise, and we're kind of asking the questions too of like, so if this isn't it, right? Because the prison industrial crisis is not it right now, right? We can say that
crisis.
We can say that with a period, but so what is, right? Because also every person we've talked to thus far is like, yeah, but like jail is necessary. Like, and people that have been in and out 30 years that you might not expect that answer from are like, yeah, for sure. There needs to be some kind of like moment where people, because most people are like, until I decided, actually, I wasn't gonna, no matter what programming, no matter yoga, no matter writing, no matter none of the shit that y'all are doing, until I decided. But I don't think that means that the facilities or the institutions, obviously we know it's not humane right now, the way that we're, giving people a timeout. It's not a timeout, it's punitive. So,
and that's super. I'm not to cut you off, but in contrast is restorative, right? So it's super punitive, and we want to lean towards the restorative practices where we're not just penalizing somebody, but we're actually doing a restoration project and healing the people that are hurt, the community, and a lot of times the perpetrator as well is also hurt. That's why they're actually hurting,
because maybe
right?
there is like penalizing and punitive, whatever. Like if we're just talking
Like if it's Puff
we're
Daddy.
just talking R. Kelly, and Diddy or whatever. Like maybe there is an element of like, yeah, you do need a minute, you do need a fucking timeout, bro. Like look at how you've been acting for so long. I'm not the one to make those kind of calls because
I don't mind
obviously
doing it.
well, yeah, and I mean, frankly, it should not be a white person making those kind of calls because we organized this, like we created this system intentionally for economic
When you
repair.
say white, what does that mean? I'm literally, I am fascinated with, in your brain, when you say the word white, what does that entail?
You mean like racially?
Yeah, you're white as the label. What's under that label?
Like white colonizers of this country that came and then shipped like slaves over,
So like
and then
people
post-slavery broke down.
directly from like England and Spain that colonized America back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my understanding with like a lot of these like trauma trainings and shit and stuff I've been taught by non-white people is like race is a construct, right? I make jokes about it, but like what it truly means to me is the color of your skin. Like, are you, and when it comes to like white versus black in particular versus like, I'm ethnic white or anything like that, to me, it's like, are you at imminent risk with law enforcement?
Do you understand me? Give me some.
Well, like
is they gonna shoot you?
No, well, I'm
Are you? Do you look like the threat?
To
Well,
me, we've gradiented that, right? We've said like white is, and this is like a color allegory from literature of all time. It's like white is innocence, right, and black is darkness and fear. And so, I mean, to me, it's the color of your skin.
Well, I'm asking that, right, because I have a bit about this, but it's also, I mean, the bit comes from my real life. So like my girl, she's Bulgarian, right? But
that shit funny.
Shout out your girl. We love your girl.
She has white skin, right? If you look from across the street, you couldn't tell until you hear her talking, right?
Yes.
And so the other day we're actually having this conversation in bed, and she was like, "Yo, like I'm wondering, like we have a kid or whatever, like what if the kid, decides like, well, I'm black, I'm gonna feel some kind of way that he would never want to represent, his mom's side, because I'm white." And I said, "Babe, stop trying to be white. You're not. Like, chances are the kid's gonna grow up, and if somebody asks him, he's gonna say, well, I'm half black and half Bulgarian." Because in my mind, and no, I don't think anybody's 100% right or 100% wrong, but in my mind, when you say white, you mean white American. Period. Right? Because when you have now, let me preface it, and please give me some pushback. Right? Because when people talk about the South Side and West Side, they say we got to stop all this black on black crime. They're killing each other by the hundreds. When was the last time you heard, the border of Ukraine and Russia?
Oh yeah,
White on
white crime.
Yeah, we don't
they're
give a
killing
fuck
each other
about
by the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
They don't identify them as white. They identify them as Ukrainian and Russian. And if they come here to America, they're still Ukrainian and Russian until it's time to vote or get a job or get out of a traffic ticket. So that's why I be wondering what everybody's definition of like white and black and all that is.
Why do you think, to your point, like I would refer to Julia as like, or your girl, we can cut that if she doesn't like her name thrown around, but as like ethnically white, like to your point, like if it comes and down to it, and I've only heard that in jest, but I like it because it is like we will still like as with an accent, right? We're still gonna knock you down a peg, but like there is still a hierarchy, and I would say it's above other colors of skin. Yeah, that just whiteness in general is like the supreme, as we have named it as such, like in this country.
I mean, numbers wise,
So.
it's mad. Outside of like say Indian people or Chinese people, or
But that's also, by the way, this is my view as someone that like grew up in Virginia too, for the most part, and like has been in and out of Chicago and has certainly like grown more progressive. And I understand that there's a whole other, South Side like politics here and what like I'm part Polish and like that. There's a lot of other white on white beef and crime and like racism and whatever. But I don't know. I have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, like because I'm learning, right? Like I didn't know that white people be beefing on white people. That's something that I'm learning as an adult. Because as a kid growing up out west,
mostly religiously,
right? A kid growing up out west, I'm like, white is white, black is black. But then I get older, and I'm like, y'all treat the Irish people like what?
yeah.
And y'all said you called a Polish person or what?
Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't even know that y'all was getting down like that. But also as a person who just I have a thing for reading. I understand like when we talk about whiteness, a lot of it has to do with like your ability to meet what the supreme whiteness is, right? Because certain people that are from certain countries that have certain phenotypes, right, are kind of raised up on the pinnacle of what whiteness is, whether it be blonde hair, blue eyes, right? But it's different.
I am the Aryan race.
Yeah. No, but it is varying, right? Because some people are from countries where they have more darker or like things that are not more recessive, right? And that's because they maybe have a history of like the Moors invading or whatever. But then that kind of knocks them down a peg, right? And then she talked about stuff like accent, right? And then it might get a little classes, and they're like, oh well, you got this, but you got a mother, and you live in the trailer park, so you're like white, but you're like a poor white.
Yeah.
So it's like that spectrum of white. Then it comes down to like, are you light skinned so you can pass? The idea of passing, well, what are you passing, right? The social norm or the social standard that is set by whom? So that's why
culturally too, like your girl, she still maintains a lot of that, right? Like so she speaks the language. She like I think I fully identifies as Bulgarian, right? Like my only proverbial, I guess, beef with white people that are like, nah, I'm this is like, nah. That's just because white people being white isn't cool right now. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like you've readopted a culture that you didn't give a fuck about because now like you don't be called a white woman today.
Well, real quick,
Not how I feel like
I could
is.
ask you the same question. So when somebody says such and so and so is black, but he's not black, what does that mean?
So I could put you on to that. I'm glad you brought that up. It's something called ADOS, like the African descendants of slaves. So there are people that are black. And yes, you are black, but that doesn't mean that your great grandfather was a sharecropper. My grandma was a sharecropper. She lived right off Congress, right off 290. So there's a different lineage than somebody who may be like an immigrant and they're still black, right? So like there has to be a differentiating factor, which is like the fact that like my grandma actually was picking cotton. And so when we talk about things like reparations, that's when we get into that. But that's like they're still black though. But there's a difference between like ADOS because like we talk about things like post-traumatic slave syndrome, and that's where the way that she was raised was the way that her mother raised her, who was a slave for most of her life, and then how did her grandmother raise her? But how do you raise somebody in an environment where they might be stolen or sold? So those type of relics are even in our DNA when we talk about how the DNA that you pass on when you have a child, right? Sure. So it's so many different layers to that that we do have to understand the dynamics of even that specific types of trauma.
So you're calling it on the basis of basically bloodlines.
I don't want it to get all Game of Thrones, but
no, because what I'm trying to definitely got you. So I mean, what I'm trying to call in my mind when I see it, right? You got Buddy to play Day.
Mike
Epps, not the darkest brother on the block. No. He's not African, black.
What the fuck is African, black?
I'm trying to get to the ADOS or whatever. Okay. But you ask anybody, like he's a whole nigga. He's as black as you can get.
Yeah.
And you could have Dr. Cornell, whatever the fuck, the dude that not necessarily him, but
Umar Johnson.
I can't. Yeah, one of those guys. Nah, because he's kind of he is kind of on different type time. But you could have somebody that's dark skinned as far as ethnically being closest to African heritage in America, and somebody again will be like, yeah, Buddy black, but he ain't black because he ain't down. So in my mind, when
down, you mean like if you're from the hood or not?
Yeah.
See, that's like a subculture, right? That's not black. That's what they really meant because they lack the vernacular or like the ability to code switch, because that's a big thing, right? They speak is it AAVE, African American? What is it called?
There's a whole lot of fancy words flying off of that couch tonight.
No, because people like to say like it's slang, but it's still a language, and we got to honor it as such. But what they say when they black is like, that person isn't from a struggle that is typical to the social economical background associated with being black, because. What they're saying is like, you couldn't possibly be from private school and have both parents at home and have no type of. You hear me? You know what I mean? So it's like that could be the trauma speaking. It could be the lack of the words. But regardless, what they really meant to say was, like, you don't associate with what I thought I was told or what I was taught that a black person is supposed to be. So in my mind, I'm black because I fit the things that they told me I needed, and
So
you
either
don't.
Because
way,
you're on brand for Out
traumatized.
West.
So I mean, both those segments would be traumatized. Like if you're a dog, then it's passed through your bloodstream from chateau slavery to antebellum slavery to vagrancy laws to Jim
talk
Crow
about big
laws.
words
Well,
on this
epigenetics is
And then
science,
if you're,
right? That ain't nothing I just made up. Epigenetics is a whole. That's
Okay.
actual science, right? So like, yeah.
But then also, if you're just from the struggle part, then that's also.
Well, who
like
told you that that's not trauma, right?
I mean, it
Because
definitely
things
is.
like hunger, we do look at like how that impacts people.
Sure.
Whether it be like, people who are growing up in an era of like a famine and how that impacts an embryo being raised or a fetus. Like naturally, your blood actually attaches to fat cells differently because it has less of them.
Which, I mean, a hot topic right now, I mean, on an ethnic white conversation, but obviously in the Jewish bloodline, that's huge.
Yes, that's exactly where the study
Yeah.
came from.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, it sounds weird to be like, Kyrie, everything goes back to trauma. It kind of does sometimes, depending on what we're looking at.
I have a follow-up, tangential question, because I've been watching Love is Blind. Do you guys watch that trash?
I haven't seen it yet.
It's
It came up in my writing session today.
It's the most perfect reality show that exists, and I have lots of concerns with it as well. And yet, there's a interracial couple right now, and like you guys are aware, I've dated outside my race too. So I found this interesting moment between them where the white woman, and they're from Charlotte, North Carolina, and she has like repeatedly also dated outside her race. And she was talking to this guy about identifying as black. She was like, she said like, you identify as a black man, and she identifies as a black woman, and she uses that phrase a couple of times, and it just like. I was curious as to how y'all feel about that, because my initial response was like, and maybe just because we do so much work with like jail and sort of like racial structures and everything, I'm like white people in this, like the identification again for me comes from like what's your interaction with law enforcement, which is designed to like protect and serve civilians, but really white civilians for people that look like me. So I just thought it was an interesting thing of like, we are all sort of like choosing to identify. And yet to me, that's like what law enforcement sees. And the reason that 1 in 3 black men like moves through jail is like, we identify black men as a threat. So I don't know. I was just curious if you guys had any thought on
started
that.
comedy in jail. I was in county jail for like 2 months, and then somebody in there was like, "You're funny. Like, why don't you do comedy?"
we'll
like,
get
I
to
didn't
Yeah.
fucking know you was locked up. What the fuck?
I'm too light. But no, I mean, outside of that though, I have like my uncle died in prison. My mom's twin brother, my mom's twin sister's son, my first cousin. Rest in peace. He passed away. The last time I saw him in the flesh was on the side, was on the other side of prison glass.
I'm sorry to hear that, Joe.
Yeah, rest in peace, Chris. And as far as when it comes to the police, I've had everything you could think of possible. I've had police plant drugs on me. I've had more than one cop pull guns on me. I've had cops I'm walking down the street minding my own business in a button down and have them come out, call me a suspected racist, throw me on the hood of the thing, grab me in crazy places, dump all my pockets out, and then say, ta-ta, talk to you later. I've had the local cops like just fuck with me. Oh, the whole nine. And
The black experience.
all right, yeah.
Black.
The black. Now, a lot of that stuff was unjust. There was things that were done to me as a person that weren't righteous. There was times I got away with shit that I could have and should have got busted for, and there was times in between. It is what it is. But I look at it like so. One of the things that I try and focus on just to keep my mental conditions healthy and to stop myself from feeling like this group, that group, and this is out to get me is like if you're pick a race. Like if you're whatever, just I'm not even gonna identify anything. Pick a race, and if your race invented the telescope, that doesn't give you the latent ability to invent the telescope. You as John Smith don't have the ability to make a spaceship. It doesn't matter if your ancestry made a spaceship. What did you do? You know what I mean? Like black people have certain stereotypes, but if that stereotype doesn't fit you, then what do you? I'm 6 feet tall and some change. can't play basketball to save your life. Don't pick me for the Space Jam thing. You know what I mean? So the stereotype doesn't fit me. And just because I'm 6 feet tall and black, being assumed that I could play basketball, you pick me to be on your team, Stanford University, you're gonna get your feelings hurt. You're gonna be mad. You know what I mean? What do I bring to the table personally? And if somebody walks around and they feel good because there's no Nike shoe prints on the moon, fair enough. What part did you contribute to the moon landing, supposedly? You know what I mean? Nothing? Then what have you done? Nothing? Then go ahead and feel like you're better than me. I disagree. And when it comes to the police, like, when has it never not been like? It's fucked. I don't know if there is a right answer for that, because you give somebody power. What's that old ass like?
Right, like
we were doing the fucked up sayings earlier, right? But one of the main ones is power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. And if you was a goofy in school and you have a clean record, and then you run over to CPD and say, I want to sign up, give me a gun, a badge, and like a whole block, a duffel bag full of authority, some people are gonna abuse that. And what can you do about that, especially in a society that we have today, where I'm never gonna see the cop from the old Disney movies that pulls a cat out of the tree. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna see the cop that put me in the back of a squad car with my handcuffs behind me and threw the little white baggie on me, asking me like, what are you doing with that in your pocket, with that little grin on his face? You know what I mean?
Well, that's why your first point, actually, like, I liked what her thought was, and like, what do you identify? Like, you know, you identify, like, you actually get to sort of like choose a little bit. But my just backup thought was like, no, like, black people, no, like, that's not the relationship. Like, is choosing. The relationship is plant the bag. The relationship is much more predatory, frankly. Like, but
because like you even said it, right? You was like, yo, people, black people roll up on you like, man, you're not black, because they told me what black is. Yeah. Because of course they told you what black is, sweetheart. They took your identity. And so that's why I said, like, it's a different factor when someone is saying like, yo, I'm black, but like my grandparents are both from, you know, Nigeria, or both of my grandparents are from Jamaica. It's like, cool, what does that culture look like? What's the history of that culture? What's the history of that place? Because I can't take you to black or like I can't take you to Wakanda, right? But like, I could tell you the farms that like my or the plantations that my grandparents was from, my great grandparents was from, and even then that's a stab at me, because my DNA is way more rich than that. Right. So it goes back to even further before that, and so that's why you have some people reach, because they don't have anything, bro. So naturally they're gonna say, man, Joe, at least, you know, 450 years before that shit was popping, like, man, you know, people who look like me from an area where my people was stolen, like, we was doing this type of shit because, you know, everything else was taken from them. You know what I mean? So you see some people who don't even know that history cling to shit like, well, you don't talk like this, and you don't wear Jordans, so you not black. And it's like, damn, dog. Thank God somebody reached to something that ain't rooted in materialism or consumerism.
Well, I think to one of your earlier points, there's a lot of things that are passed down in a human's DNA, right? And back as far back as you can go with time, it was hunters, gatherers, and the most important thing was the group that you hunted and gathered with and took shelter with, right? And so you identify with your tribe. Chances are your tribe looks a lot like you. Yeah. We had the benefit.
That's like biological.
Exactly. And we had the benefit. So, and to that point, like, there's 330 million Americans, right? And that's not anywhere close to how many tribes there are. You can make as many tribes as you want. Your favorite football
West Side.
team, the West Side, the damn
that's why people love
scuba
sports.
divers,
Totally.
whatever you want. So even in black culture itself, countless number of tribes. White culture, countless number of tribes. Women, countless number of tribes. Fucking dudes with dreadlocks, dudes that are bald and didn't plan on it. Like, there's countless number of tribes.
What you say about Jada Pinkett?
Whatsoever.
What you say?
Hey, go lock my door. Hey, but I mean, that, to me, there is.
Really swipe it.
To me, there's a level of comfortability. There's a level of it's gonna happen, and then there's also a level that kind of frightens me, because in today's world. So take it like this, right? all three of us, if we didn't know each other from a can of paint and we just happen to sit down, we're having dinner together, right? You're Republican, you're Democratic, I'm a Libertarian. And we're talking about sports. Conversation's fine. We're talking about, I don't know, the weather in Chicago. Conversation's fine. As soon as somebody goes, hey, what's your, you thought about who you're going to vote for?
Anything about the border.
Things, the waters might get a little choppy. It just so happens that black, white, light-skinned is who we vote for as plain as you can see. You don't have to ask about the border. Like, we're wearing our vote on our skin. So you're walking around with everything that people assume beyond your skin. Like, bro, I called you out from West Sider.
You West Side is different though, right? Because political is a lot more.
Well, guess what?
It's a lot more nuanced.
Guess what? Anybody that's watching this
Yeah.
from Chicago,
Yes and no.
when I call you out for being a West Sider, there's a certain. It's like,
But
boom,
that's
boom,
like
boom,
dress,
boom.
right? There's a difference because your political ideal or whatever because it could be it's a gang.
The idiosyncrasies are different, but
Way
the overall arc is that once if you were to tell me you was a Democrat, I could make certain
Why the hell would I
assumptions.
tell you that?
I'm saying we're not in the weeds. If you tell me you're whatever, if you tell me you're Catholic, Protestant, Baptist, Democrat, fucking your dad used to play for the Harlem Globetrotters, eventually I'm gonna make certain assumptions about you and your life, and the more we talk, I'm either gonna solidify my assumptions or I'm gonna make a different set of assumptions or judgments. You know what I mean? Like, but when it comes to your skin, as soon as I see you, I assume boom, 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 boom until you prove me otherwise. You put a 3-piece suit on Jason Williams, you know what I mean? From old Sacramento days, you'll never imagine that he the coldest
safari
white
hat.
boy would have been. Yeah.
White chocolate.
Like if you know, like you could have told me that she caught that jacket that she was wearing before she came in, I would have believed you.
Shit, I believe you right now. If you
Can I ask you?
I do have layers.
A question. So you leave yoga university, you get a job hired working at a prison. Day one, you walk through the door like, all right, let's go ahead and stretch these cats out. What is going to walk me through day one yoga class in prison?
Sure. Also, let me be clear. First of all, we volunteer teach, so I don't get paid. Although we're working on that because I think volunteering is a privilege. Like, and
thank you for your service.
Thank you, but mostly it's just like as we grow to be a more sustainable organization, like people do want to donate their time, but that again is not sustainable. It's just like if people want to forward their money or like yield their money for whether it's like podcast guests or something like that, like we'll figure all that out. But I only want to know that because like the rest of our volunteers do volunteer their time. They deserve to be acknowledged for that. But I also mentioned that because I didn't seek it out, frankly. Like I do a lot of this with my comedy where I'm like, I'm not a good person. I do think the work is good, but like I was also looking for something at the time. Like I lost someone like to suicide maybe a couple months before like I accidentally rolled into a meeting that was yoga for jail. And I was in like a second yoga training, and in retrospect, like kind of to answer a question you didn't ask, like in retrospect, it makes a lot of sense because my ex at the time did some wild illegal shit. And he had always said randomly, he was like, I would never go to jail. Like I'd die before I'd go to jail. Did that come anywhere near my brain for 10 years? Like, no. Recently, the 10-year anniversary of his death came up and I was like, oh, this kind of like does make some sense. Couldn't save him, like out to save, that it's not a unique story in that regard. But I had a buddy who wanted to do yoga for like addiction recovery. And there was like a call out for teachers for this program called Yoga for Recovery. We didn't realize it was yoga for women in jail, but we showed up to the meeting and I was like, yeah, I mean, I was kind of doing a thing at the time too, where, when you're going through deep trauma and grief or whatever, I call it a phase I call parachute optional. Where like I have a pretty low like risk aversion as it is, but I was like, I truly don't give a fuck. Like I could walk in front of a car today and like I think I kind of deserve it, right? Like there's that, I like loathe the term survivor's guilt, but like there is that, right? Where you're just kind of like, I don't know what the fuck I'm even still doing here, like how I was sort of a part of that, what I didn't see. So I think I was in a pretty like disassociated state, generally speaking. But weirdly, like, and I was never into like Orange is the New Black or any of that shit. It wasn't like a fetishizing of jail thing for me. We get a lot of that now. We have to like filter a lot of that out. But I went in and we shadow first, and we instill that process too. So you watch someone else teach a class and like make sure you're comfortable. Make sure before you get like permanent credentials to walk in jail that again, this isn't like I just want to like see what it's like in there, or I just think this would be like cool.
Did it feel like you were going to jail that first day?
Yeah, it does. I mean, yeah, you walk through a degree, a pretty significant degree of security. Like some of the COs or correctional officers are cool, some of them are not. And what I do remember is with the first couple, I don't want to put anyone on blast for that, but I had the thought where I was like, some people talking about like the COs being difficult and it like not being like a great experience to like be in jail. I was like, yeah. Yes. And yet the purpose was actually quite productive of those comments because again, for us as an organization, something we need to do better with is like, how do we sort of like take care of our teachers that are volunteering to go do this work? Like, how do we make sure if they're not getting paid that they, it's not stressful work. And for me, it's not anymore. I've been doing it 10 years. And I don't like to answer your question much more directly. It just felt like kind of normal for me. Like you could feel, I didn't feel at risk. And I'm sure maybe day one or day two, again, it's been 10 years. So I try to remind myself of this because I'm training new volunteers like annually too.
Yeah.
And we get the questions and all of that. But I don't remember ever feeling like my safety was at risk, but once, and it was more of just like, whoa, like this was like a lot of like aggressive energy at once, but it was people wanting to take yoga. Like I walked out of a women's division. They're like, why don't we have yoga? Like, can we get yoga? And it was just like very, a lot of hectic energy in my direction, but I've never felt unsafe. I do recall pretty early on being pretty like, we're teaching yoga, and yet I can hear what's happening with like a CO or like a fight outside.
Okay.
And that kind of like dehumanization of people that we like treat like rats in cages. And so that I think was the biggest like obstacle to get over.
So day one, you didn't go home and like take the sharp toothbrush out of your hair and go,
The shank on the first day?
Yeah,
I think she would have did a newspaper one for her first one. Kathryn don't strike me as a toothbrush as a first shank. She's definitely a newspaper rolled up.
No, I mean, truth is like it's behavior based first of all, and it's an opt-in for the most part. Like we've done some boot camp programs that are like requisite yoga as part of the programs in CCJ, but for the most part, people want to be there and they want to be able to come back. So like, yes, I've seen some bad behavior. We've had to remove people from like a list here and there, but we mostly either do that quietly or directly. Like we'll have a conversation with the group, just like we are now, or just like we're doing on the podcast of like, do you understand what we try to do before we get to that stage too? Is like, do you understand that was like inappropriate or that like made someone feel uncomfortable? Like we don't ask that of our teachers, but those of us that are tenured and doing that for a long time, like before I ever removed someone from a list or was like, this is not working out. I would sit down like with the group communally and be like, the vibe is we all can feel this, right? Or like, do you understand your impact and your effect on other people? Because I think a lot of times, like, and this is not to excuse people of agency and accountability of their own behavior, but when you're so desensitized, like in an environment like that, and you're speaking out or lashing out, like you may not necessarily realize it, right? This is like kid stuff of like just acting out for attention. Like we're comics, this is all of us. Like speaking out of turn for attention or whatever. So, but for the most part, no, like people want us to come back. So
of course.
That it's a program that I think they feel grateful to have for them, like is my experience there. So that was a long-winded.
No,
I don't even answer the question, to be honest.
That was a dope response. Thank you. I definitely have a high level of sympathy for people that grew up less privileged than me. And I my pop's been in my life since I'm 1 year old and some change. My folks are still together or whatever.
That's
so
beautiful.
Mathematically, it's an anomaly.
Mine too.
That my mom, she's a teenager at the time, meets another teenager. I'm a year old, and they've been able to make that work for 40 plus years. You know what I mean? And he's a solid dude. You know what I mean? And
shout out to that.
Yeah.
Shout out to mom and pop. Love y'all. But for the people like, and I grew up. I think I was telling you earlier that I grew up military family. So just by proxy, I grew up all around the world. You know, like the Okinawa, Japan, mainland Japan, England, a handful of states, and so by accident I got opened up to like cultures all over the place, right? But also it was in the capacity in a large part in the military format. You know what I mean? And then after a while, I got out the military myself, and now I'm civilian, and it's a bit of a change. But I've been to the hood, friends from the hood, hung out, lived in a few rough patched places or whatever, right? And there's people I've known and met. Tell you what, I had this buddy of mine back in the day. I used to live on the south side of Omaha, Nebraska. So it's like the
what of what?
The South O. So it's like
they call it South O.
Yeah,
that's kind of hard. I like that.
No, yeah,
that's gangster.
No, I'll tell you what.
The south side of Chicago
I've
before
seen
I go to South O.
everything that's possible to see with human eyes. I've seen it in Omaha, Nebraska.
I think it's because we drive through.
I believe that.
Like a lot of the guns and drugs drive through Nebraska, no?
All the way to the max, I've seen it in close proximity.
That feels like.
I mean?
Did you ever see Winter's Bone?
I don't think so.
It's like a Jennifer Lawrence's like first indie movie, and it's just like seethingly uncomfortable because she's in like rural. It might be Nebraska or Kentucky or something. It's like rural America, and there's like a murder, and just the whole movie is like eerily her like walking through the snow, and there's like nothing around, and then like if you add South O to that, like that's what I'm picturing.
Yeah, it is.
It's just like it was just so uncomfortable.
There's some uncomfortable stuff. I mean, there's some dope spots, but it can get uncomfortable, and there's not a whole lot to do out there, so a lot of people just end up getting in trouble. But I had this young cat that I knew. I won't say his name. Habitual liar. This guy could not. He was one of those kinds of liars that everybody knows he's lying, but he just can't help it. You know what I mean? Like if you.
It's his brand.
It's just his brand. Like he can't. Like it's a mental disorder to a high degree. You know what I mean? But he's also one of them cats that he had like a latent talent. Like he's one of them dudes. He could like Juice World freestyle. You know what I mean? Like he could go for 25 minutes if you let him, and you could just like he'll talk about your whole outfit, whatever. Just super duper talented. Couldn't help but lie. Awkward ass dude. You know. And on South O, we also used to stay in these apartments. Me, these two twins, Brandon and Brian, and then this cat I'm talking about. And there used to be a local crackhead on the block. And she was she was crackhead, like true, all the way, like movie level crackhead shenanigans. Ooh. She got into a lot of shenanigans.
My favorites.
I mean? Yeah, 4 in the afternoon, 4 in the morning, made no difference to her, right? Auntie. And I had like the kick it spot, so a lot of the times the twins and my guy would be at the crib just kicking it. Well, one day, the guy I'm talking about, he wasn't at the crib. And we used to tease the crackhead, because the crackhead, and we were young. That's what you do. And one day, knock at the door. One of the twins go open the door. It's the crackhead, which we've never spoken to directly, because crackheads are fast. You know what I mean? They're in the shadows. And she comes in, and he used to go by a nickname that he told everybody this was his nickname. The crackhead walk in, and she's like, have y'all seen, and she says like a government name. We're like, who is that? And then she says his nickname. And he was like, nah, we ain't seen him. And she was like, well, tell him his mama looking for him. And then she dipped.
Oh, that's his mama? His mama was
That was his mom's the whole time. Like, I'm talking, I've known this cat. I've known this cat. We've known him for over a year or 2 or 3, right? And we all teased, one of the crackheads on the block because it's one of the crackheads on the block. Whole time, it's his mom. And then when you get a humongous piece of the puzzle like that and drop it in the middle of the map, it fills in a lot of gaps. You know what I mean? Because you're like, oh, I can see why Buddy's a little bit off. Because your mom's is doing bad. She down bad. And you might not have grown up with the most solid footing. And there's a lot of...
Might not?
Yeah. That's, by the way, like for me now, at least, like I think, I don't want to speak for you, but at least a lot of the reason that I continue to do this work and actually feel it's quite important is like, I do think Kyrie's always talking about the youths and like the kids and how, you know, they're the representation of how our society functions. I do feel like that's true. And yet, like, if these kids are coming home to broken homes because their dads or moms are in jail or on the streets or whatever, like that's the foundation of their 80% of their experience, right? Like their fundamental building blocks. If their parents are not available for them, or whether it's addicted to drugs or like running through the system, or like it has to get fixed.
Who turned you on to? You was talking earlier that you was reading like the courtroom documents or the Diddy case and all that. Who put you on? Did somebody say, "Hey, this is where the key to it is"?
What do you mean, like reading documents or just
read and?
I think since I was raised in an environment where like I had like different type of like woke niggas, like different type of hoteps. So like it was Muslims, arm reach, and then I'm not just talking like Shiite, Sunni. I'm talking like nation. Like, you know, white man is the devil. Then I had
Black
like Hebrew
Israelites.
Hebrew Israelites, arm reach, 5%ers, everything you could think of, and like everybody got their different books, right? And then like people are like opening books and referencing stuff. So I was always taught like you can pray to the creator of all and get the information you're looking for. And a lot of times you can like just use discernment while you're researching. And so like I don't know, it's just always been like a thing of mine to always get to the bottom of it. I always felt like you can get to the bottom of stuff. And so like, I don't know. I just always felt like why wonder? We have smartphones. Why be lazy? You know what I mean? Why would I wonder something when I can look it up? That's such a weird dynamic to have inside of my head. I already got a lot of stuff cooking up there, bro. I don't need an answer that I can solve with a couple minutes of research. Plus, I got a natural curiosity of life. I'm like a student of life. You know, I'm mad. You know, just curious in general, bro.
I've noticed like with my phone, if I'm digesting social media that way, or if I happen to be reading, they both happen in like that super car accident speed where a lot of time passes by quickly that I don't notice. But the difference is if I'm doing like reels or whatever, when that time passes, I'm like, Jesus, it's been 2 hours. Oh my God, I got red moon craters on the top of my thighs. How long have I been on the toilet? You know, both my legs are Vietnam right now. You know what I mean? But nothing, it's empty. Like the space in my brain that was just zombied out. But if it's like a book, don't give me the line like I'm smarter than I'm trying to pretend to be right now. No. Like there's a lot of times I'll read like however much of a book and be like, yeah, I didn't get none of that shit.
Yeah, it's hard now. I try to like read every morning, and I go back because your brain, we're designed to multitask as it is, but we obviously evolve. So our brain, like I heard recently that like Reels and TikTok, like if the camera doesn't move within 8 seconds, we move on, which is like that's a crazy level.
That is crazy
of distraction.
Level.
8. I think it used to be 12. I grew up and I thought it was 12. Like you had 12 seconds of full focus. So that's like cut in a quarter. Like that's wild. And like the last 10 years, we've cut a quarter of our attention span out, or a third, or whatever that calculation is. And I feel it. Like I try to, like Kyrie's always like investigating stuff. I obviously try to stay read on like not just like nonfiction, but I try to read some fiction too, just like stay creative and like to read. To read.
It really does exercise the muscle.
But it's hard, and especially your girl will appreciate this. I read this Russian author right now, and I cannot fucking stand Russian literature. Like Anna Karenina and all this bullshit. Like they take 3 pages to describe like the level of rosy that a cheek is. And I'm already not fucking paying attention. I'm like, what did I miss? And then I go back and read it again, and I'm like, fucking nothing. I missed nothing actually. So I think that must be like the comic.
To what you're saying, it blows my mind now too, because like my girl will watch those murder mystery like videos on whatever, but the girl has to be doing her makeup, or I could be watching. You know what I mean? Like this, it's like it's already a clip on a murder, which is
Yeah.
like, wow, that's sensational. But you can't even just let that 48 seconds go. There has to be something else going. Well,
Yeah.
I'll be watching clips now, bro, and it'll be like some dude talking about the last UFC fight, but then they gotta have like a video game car
I know.
racing at the
Yeah.
bottom. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Kyrie
wait a
talking
minute,
about it, yeah.
are you telling me like I don't even? And I'm mad at myself. I'm like, I don't even have the attention span
Yeah.
to watch two dudes fighting without seeing
And we don't.
something else.
Yeah, because we're all watching the
It's
Super Bowl
only
on our phone.
23
Yeah.
seconds, yo.
Yeah, it's how many screens in front of you at once, right?
Yeah.
It was that, and now it's one screen with 3 screens in the one screen
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever.
And,
but
like,
it's like,
And you're watching
It's-
somebody
it's
watch
so-
the thing you just
yeah.
watched.
You know,
which is,
I-
by the way, fundamentally where I stand on, like, where I'm like, I don't want to be reached. Like, I joke around about that or whatever,
Fair
but
enough.
like, but I don't. I don't want. It's not normal for me as like a millennial. Maybe I'm just at the cusp of this or whatever. But when people, this is like a huge thing with like bookers and comedy for me too. When bookers are texting you and they're like, 1 minute later, they're like, "Are you there?" And I'm like, "Since when?"
Yeah.
Would I like be,
I've been trying to get better
since
with that.
and I'm also trying to be more responsive because I understand that's like a respectful professional thing or whatever, but since there's no off time, especially with this career,
Yeah,
but in
yeah.
general, professionally, personally, like I just don't want to be, and this has been a huge issue in my like personal relationships too, like I just don't want people to feel like they have access to me all the time. Like that feels very abnormal to me and feels like
It's that little knob in the back.
unnatural, right? To like not be able to like disconnect. Like I'm here with y'all, I'm present, right? But like that's it's hard because I also still feel I still also have the new wave in me, the new age in me, where I'm like,
Yeah.
I haven't checked my phone in like 30 minutes. Like, is anyone, did the show get canceled? Did I get asked for another spot? Or like,
Yeah.
what's my man up to? Like that kind of like,
Yeah.
is he waiting for me? Something, you know what I mean? Like we all have that, but I actively try to remove myself from that and be like, I don't know, like you don't get to know where I am right now.
Yeah.
Like, not for like specific people, but just like the world should not have me on the grid
You have to
all the time.
unplug.
Yeah.
It's a byproduct, right? Because we're more plugged in than anybody, kind of walking the earth. Like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, in a sense of like, there are young people, Gen Z, right? That's all they know. But we're like some of the last people who remember the world before Wi-Fi.
Crossover,
We
yeah.
remember the AOL.
Yeah.
We remember the dial-up. We remember when people were like, "I'm going to Google something," and it was fascinating.
Yeah. Also,
we
you might
remember
ask
when
Jeeves.
Uber dropped, right? Ask Jeeves. Like, there's certain things, you know what I mean? Like, and so we are the most, I say we're the most chained or like kind of enslaved because we remember what freedom was.
Yeah,
Pivot
totally.
point. We're the pivot
yeah.
point.
And that's why we be needing those
It's
moments.
so much more of a battle. Whereas
Yeah.
like Gen Z, they're like, yeah, fuck it, we're online. Yeah, I'm online all the time. I'm on content all the time. And for us, it's like, ugh, like this performative, like this is not how people live.
highly performative,
Or it's not
yes.
how we live, but we're still held. That's so interesting. We're still held captive to it in the same way. And that's how I would think of it too. It's like I'm held captive to
Man, and
this thing.
I you know what? One of the reasons I had even sent it to you. So when you mentioned how videos are split, I had sent that to Kathryn because we
Yeah.
talk about like attention
Talking
span
about that
when we
all the
talk
time.
about like how we do our podcast. But also, so I was looking at like, oh man, I hate to get so deep. So trauma rewires the brain, right?
You love
Yeah.
to get so deep.
I know.
You love to get so
That's
deep.
what she said. No, like so.
ahead.
If
Okay,
if
that's
our
what we're
if
gonna do next?
if how I am. If how we process entertainment is different, then what does that look like for in our relationships? What does that look like in our ability to be patient with each other? What does that look like for us to be patient with ourselves? And I just be like up all night, just getting real metaphysical and looking at and examining like what are the byproducts of people. What is the statistical relationship numbers for people who don't feel that connected or who don't feel that depth or who are always performative? Right? Do they have the ability to have some of those deeper relationships that we saw growing up? Right? Or what are the dynamics of a deeper relationship? Because they can't simply be the same because we're talking about a generation of people who are even worse than a microwave relationship, dog.
Sure.
Like we're not even a microwave generation. We're an air fryer generation.
Yeah.
My God, what does love look like in that?
Yeah.
What does love of self look like? Right? So it's like, I don't know. I just get deeper with it.
I mean to stay on that path as well. I think there is a certain level of healthy paranoia that we need, and a certain level of ego that it also comes with. And I say that to say this is that there was a certain point when the car came out. Now you can get places a whole lot faster than a horse.
Yeah.
There's life changing pivots that come once in a generation. We're at one of them, the internet popping off. But so was the airplane. So was the railroad.
Yeah.
So was light bulbs. Now you can work
So was
in
the
the dark.
postal system.
So was the
Yeah.
postal. So was regular fucking telephones.
Yeah.
So was electricity. Like at a certain point, and the scholars of their time were having the same crisis of conscience. Like, what's this gonna do to the entire world, to the youth? I'm more than positive. Socrates back in the day, he wrote like what do they have, like the tablets or scrolls or whatever the fuck they were using back then. But he wrote a paper that said the same thing. Like, these kids don't know how easy they got it. Essentially, is what he was saying.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're going through one, and yeah, we should look at it like we were there for a major crossover period. But then the next generation's gonna be like, I'm just now starting in my older age, starting to look back at the generations before me and actually have an appreciation for what happened before me. Because I didn't have time to give a fuck in my 20s, in my early 30s. I was out getting busy, shut up old person. You know what I mean? That's the same age I am now.
It is the nature to look up and be like, yikes, and look down and be like, chill the fuck out, man.
Movie,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And there's a generation coming up right now where I'm like, better watch out for this AI because it's about to go crazy. There's a 2-year-old right now that by the time they're 22 are going to be like, shut up, old fogey. Yeah, I got a computer chip in my brain. And then he's going to tell me to shut up in 3 different versions of Chinese and be like, can you do that, stupid? No? All right, well, why don't you get the fuck on? Hey, change the tennis balls on your walker, dummy.
I don't know that we're going to be alive for that because I think they're going to eliminate us for efficiency purposes.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be like violent. I think it's just going to be like that computer chip's going to be like they're utilizing resources and are not modernized and technologically, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's just going to be like, peace.
Yeah. Well, when
like, remove their chip.
Whenever whoever Buddy was that came back from China with firecracker powder and was like, what if we put this in a long steel barrel and put like a little lead ball in there and aimed it at somebody? Somebody back in the day was like, there goes the fucking world, Joe.
But wasn't they right, though?
Then,
wasn't they right, though?
Yeah.
Wasn't that item used to enslave millions?
Well,
Genghis Khan enslaved
this shit, yeah.
a way more. Alexander, the Crusades.
Wait. You said they enslaved more than what? Than the
Genghis
gun?
Khan?
You think Genghis Khan enslaved more than the gun was used to enslave?
At the time?
Oh, wait, I'm confused. Like over time?
Probably like per capita. Like,
at the time, he took over. At the
adjusted
time, he took over.
I think.
Yeah, they made a wall big enough to see from outer space because that dude was so prolific with hunting people down. Like I mean, up to millions. Right now, the genetic gene pool of Mongolia, 1 out of 16 people are direct descendants of Genghis Khan because he had so many concubines. This dude,
I'm not here to take away from Genghis Khan. I would hate to. I would hate for my point.
I'm just saying that at a certain point.
Kyrie's on his team.
No, because this
people was
impossible.
getting busy with swords, bro.
Well, no, for sure. But for us to say like you like the gun was the only reason Africa was ever pillaged at all, right? Mm-hmm. Like it was one of those type of like instruments of like, and like I feel you on some Genghis Khan, but like, man, Joe, like Europe kind of like really like showed shorty like, yo, you was doing it nice, but we put some religion in it. Like, so I don't know. Like I feel you on that one, but the gun just so nasty with it, Joe.
It is because it's so personal. It's right there, and you ain't gotta try too hard. You know what I mean? You don't have to go to gun school.
And there's other cultures, right? Because I'd be a liar to say only the Europeans was using the gun to enslave people. That ain't true.
So now here's my return question, right? And no shade on the big C over there. But when you go to other countries, large countries, right? Typically, the folks that don't have that. Now, there's definitely some folks that don't have, gun rights, the Second Amendment, right? Would you want to live in the big C?
What's the big C? I'm sorry.
China.
Oh,
No,
you
I've been
funny
in- I've
as
been in
hell
China.
right now. I'm like the big C. I'm like coochie. Like what is the big C?
Because I'm saying the big C because the way they have it set up there, from my understanding,
Yeah.
is that even me saying this right now, that's going to be put out on a platform that's
That's a
run
problem.
run by ABC, Global or whatever like that. Yeah. The little
Yeah.
computers that listen to
China.
the words that we say might pick that up, and then all of a sudden this gets seen by your auntie and my next door neighbor, and that's it. You know what I mean?
Don't they got the personal credit score
My,
or like the whatever where like
Yeah.
your pup or like your social credit score where like your social credit score drops because you speak on
Now-
the nation or whatever. However that works.
Now, whatever, it doesn't matter what your political leanings are or however you voted. Let me ask you this though: you take away every gun in the street from good people, bad people, registered, unregistered, whatever state. You take that all away. What do you think happens to? You take it away tonight. Everybody wakes up tomorrow. There's not one gun, not one bullet. Is America a better or worse place?
No.
I didn't know
That
it was
was
a yes
a-
or no question.
Yeah.
He said no like a toddler. Hey,
Because I'm trying to think, could it ever be a better place?
Petulant
Like,
as no.
Yeah, like
No.
like this is a
No.
curse. This is a cursed place. Like no gun can ever take away from the spiritual debris or the type of like egregious shit that has happened here for generations. You know what I mean? So like I think it's
Yeah,
like
but I think, is it a better place?
yeah. Oh, okay.
Even if it's a bad place, in my opinion, it's the best
you
bad
think
place.
you think that you think guns being taken away makes it better?
I didn't
Oh.
make
He
a
asked,
choice.
he asked,
yeah,
he
no,
asked the
oh.
question. You said
Oh, you
no.
asked me, do I
Yeah,
think that
if you
gun-
had the Thanos glove and you
would
could,
I take guns away?
Yeah.
Fuck no, I wouldn't take guns away.
Uh-huh.
Fuck no.
Why not?
Because I don't believe in the power structure that identifies me as less than man to protect me and protect my people. So although you could argue like, hey, Kyrie, you actually are alive and well right now. In my opinion, it's by the grace of God. Because there's been too many times where police could have went and did too much, right? They could have threw me in the back of the paddy wagon and drove around until my fucking back break, right? They could have did those things. Shit. Sometimes they did make me fucking, you know what I'm saying, spread my legs and cough. So like,
But if they don't carry either, you still, you know what I'm saying?
but see, and that's the thing. They are not necessarily like police are not like born to be what they are, right? The system makes them what they are.
I
So
agree.
my beef is not actually with police. My beef is with the system that gave you the power
Yeah.
to have that absolute control that corrupts.
And there is always going to be that power, like, not always or whatever.
No, it's
but
not al-
but
well-
if we remove the guns, that power struggle doesn't go away. I think that's what you're saying.
Exactly.
Sure.
The system
But-
that gave you your gun didn't go away. So shit. You think? I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, even if they gave you bow and arrow, we're still fucked because everything that was
Yeah.
behind
But
the
I don't
gun
know.
being pulled is still around.
But couldn't we argue still be better, right? Because like you're not shooting someone you'd have to run up on Laquan McDonald. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not the same ease of murder.
Right. And so my thing
It's
is
so
like,
much more personal to have to stab. You're within.
But no,
a
for
12
sure.
foot- You're within a humanizing.
like-
you're within a humanizing distance from someone. And granted, that's not going to take it all away at all.
sure.
But
For
I
sure,
just
for
want,
sure.
and I said yes is my gut response, and I'm pushed back on me too.
No.
but
I-
I'm saying it's got to be a little better.
And so you work in male prisons as well.
Yeah.
Who are usually the alphas in the facility?
I don't know. That's necessarily for me to say, because we're not like we've taught like
You're
on
not
the
like
tiers
just
and in the
walking
decks,
around
but
gin pop or nothing.
we have especially in the women's, but we right now are in a separate classroom. So I have an idea, right, of like what I think the dynamics are with at least like our group and maybe who they are in like a larger group or something.
Yeah.
But that would just be my like
I'm
predisposition.
Saying,
you
I'm
know?
kind of leaning that question towards right when the gun.
mean like who's got the
when
gun? Who had the gun?
It's gun
Yeah.
is the great equalizer. You could be 4'9".
You think that?
You could be
Yeah.
It's you know what guns do, right?
Wait, I thought
It doesn't
education
matter.
was
It
the great
doesn't-
equalizer.
it
Did we
doesn't-
learn a different thing?
You think the book's gonna stop a bullet? You can influence the person that has the gun, but
If they'll listen,
I'm definitely
yeah.
not. I'm definitely not bringing crime and punishment to a shootout. But here's
We're
my
gonna
thing.
do a book to a knife fight.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I always
the pen is mighty in the sword. I get that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But again, guns. And what I'm saying is the gun is the great. Once you invented a gun, a person that's 5'1", she is just as lethal as me. If
That's
she
true.
has a gun,
I thought we was Team Genghis Khan over guns. Now you talking about Team guns.
Why was
Well, I'm curious because it feels like you're flipping too.
Here's the thing.
No.
Here's the
I put guns over Genghis Khan, but I always put knowledge over.
But the
over
reason
guns.
why Genghis Khan took over all of like Eastern Asia and a decent chunk of Europe is because all the people in his army and his culture, they taught them how to ride horses with very small bows efficiently. So they essentially had better bows and arrows than everybody else. They didn't have to get out with swords and anything. So they didn't have a gun, but as far as the evolutionary chart of weaponry, they had faster, smaller, get it there quicker.
You said it. They learned it. They was taught.
Exactly.
Knowledge, yeah.
So they had the one up, like you were saying in Africa. Africans didn't have guns when the Europeans showed up with fucking the muskets from the Looney Tunes. So obviously you're gonna have a leg up. But the whatchamacall is the Second Amendment was instilled to prevent a tyrannical government. At that time, the people that were, occupying America and taking it from the people that was already here and creating America's land still were tied to, hey, I remember what happened in England and all this other good stuff. If only the government has the weapons and the people don't, the government gets to do whatever the fuck they want. So everybody gets guns. There you go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And on paper, back in the day, before they had switches, before they had Kalashnikovs, before they had whatever the kids are calling them in the streets, it made sense. You have the same gun I got. You know what I mean?
Because these are all experimental hypotheses, which that one may or may not have been wrong, and I don't know where we're at with it. But that's my
So
when
you
we
go
go
to
back
a-
to Second
yeah.
Amendment. It's like, yeah, that did have a purpose at the time.
Yeah.
Wait,
What we did with it, what we have done with it, in my opinion, that shit is outdated.
I don't. So
Well, the
I
gun's
do.
here,
Yeah,
so-
no, I don't. The reason why I don't.
I mean, yeah,
can undo
we're
knowledge.
doing an imaginary world. I was just in terms of like answering your question. I think that this country would be better off if nobody had a gun. But to your point, that's completely unrealistic.
So you take away America's guns and their ability to be lethal, because most peace is brought about by, and I could be wrong, push back
But then
on me,
to your
please,
point, is it
but
worldwide
most peace
guns?
is
Yeah.
brought about
of
by
course,
the
with
most violence.
Yeah.
You take away all of America's guns and weapons, America's
not the
still
superpower, yeah.
number one superpower.
Yeah, I
Doubt
mean, you
it.
really have to take away to gunpowder from this entire dumb rock, which isn't going to happen.
There hasn't been
But-
another world war since the
Yeah.
last most violent bombing ever in the
Yeah,
world
it's
war.
hard to separate that we are obviously the most violent country, and then
have shown the most violence.
Yes, but there's also like where I think pro-gun and like true pro-America like advocates will like at the very least have a point to stand on, right? Which is like you said, like we are number one or whatever, like militarily, and that is a product of our weaponry, and so there's like people. I think the problem is people conflate that with like, so I need a gun. And I do understand like, yeah, if the government has guns, like shouldn't the people be able to arm themselves or whatever? But like, there's so many layers between them. It's just like with jail when we're talking about like, okay, what the post-industrial crisis as it actually exists and like the fundamental concept of jail. Whether it's a timeout, whether it's a punitive situation, whether it's a rehabilitative situation, like wherever you're at theoretically, that is so much different than the reality of what we have macro
and
now.
see, that's
The
what I mean, like,
micro
there's-
explanation of that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
like,
in
if
macro,
you're armed,
but it's
I should be able to be armed. You don't govern me without my permission, so I should be able to do that too. But where it has gotten
But and also, I think that's also like
is an externality that we have not like factored in.
Like, and also it's like it's a case by case, almost like privilege. Like when I was in Texas, they are very passionate about like Texas being like its own thing.
Yeah.
And like to the point where they're like, yo, federal government, you're actually hurting us by not protecting us. And so we have to protect ourselves, and we have to protect ourselves from you putting us in way of danger.
Yeah.
Right. And so like knowing my history very well, have seen the federal government put black people in harm's way, and not just with guns, right? We can go to Tuskegee Army experiment, right? Like it's been so many situations where we talk about like Flint, Michigan, where like federal government just does not protect us, or because we're not a part of
Yeah,
what
and
the
act like that water isn't coming down here, by the way. Like people.
Yeah. We're gonna act like Chicago lead isn't in the water, and that's why CPS is doing what they're doing. But I say all that to say, like, as somebody who is extremely just, I raise an eyebrow. I should because of the history of the said country. And I see other things that are like relics that don't get moved, like the Electoral College. Like, oh, get the fuck out of here. So I can't help but feel like the one thing that at least bring like the equalizing on a level of like, fuck, at least I can keep my grandma front door from getting kicked in.
Yeah, right.
Like, no, I need that, dog. I need that because for some people they like, Kyrie, that's a situation that is very, very real from where I'm from. And so it's like, that's a super privilege for you to
Yeah, I mean,
even...
I'm coming from a place of privilege.
No, for sure. But like, and that's why I think like to even say like no gun, like America is a better place with no gun, because I done seen that shit save people's life and take people's life. Yeah. So it's like shit. That's the dynamic, and that's why I said like that's the dynamic we live in this country, where some people feel like, damn, federal government, thank you for bringing me my rights, and some people are like, fuck you, federal government, for taking my rights, and in some cases for making me less than a human. So it's like, I still need that equalizer.
I kind of, they're here to stay.
I mean, I've thought about it. Yeah, I mean, obviously my privilege as a white woman is high.
But shit, that come at your ovaries in a heartbeat, though.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, I've certainly thought about, and I'm from Virginia again. Like I to a degree, I do believe in the right to be able to do that, to protect yourself. But I mean, don't even get me started on the level of like, you should have to go, that system needs to be stronger. Like, what the fuck are we talking? Again, my ex was mentally ill, drove across state lines after he committed a crime the same day, bought a gun at an Indiana gun show legally, and then shot himself, like, while being chased down by the police. But like, his purchase of that gun was legal. This man was obviously wildly mentally unstable, but also had just committed a crime 20 miles away. So like, there's just so many, and that's just an example. That's obviously like my like personal bias to it.
But that's
I'm not able
though.
to not like project that onto my feeling about guns, but like, it's real. That happened. So, and that's not an uncommon case with all these like school shootings and shit. Like, these people are like, it's so obvious. It's so fucking obvious that there is an issue with this, but there's just so much money. There's so much money in the lobby. There's so much money in the mass production of these, because again, we're producing them at the same level and with the same companies and under the same like allowances and loopholes as we do weapons of mass destruction, because we're like, protection, right? So that's my only like pushback on the like, I need to protect myself, is that's the exact same rhetoric that we're using to justify, frankly, participating in genocide as well, not to mention like other, international, at times, war crimes and international like violence. But like at home, the reason and the way that people are still able to purchase, like, it is fucking crazy that people are still able to purchase the weapons that they're able to purchase any given, like, we could do it tonight. We could do it tonight, and like, that's just intense. And so I think philosophically, it's hard for me to like separate even the question at hand, because the reality is so bad.
Well, the reality is there is no separation. It came with if we were to play chess right now, you can't say, hey, I don't want the castles only get to move one space. No. When we started playing chess, the rules were already set in place. These pieces move a certain way. When you were born, when anybody before you was born and they came to America, the rule was guns, everybody. Number 2,
guns,
with a bullet. Like, there is no separation. We could talk all the philosophicals we want to, and we can have, and I love this discussion. I love discourse, and I love that we're able to civilly push back on each other without going crazy. But because
again, I'm willing to admit, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm coming from this kind of place.
I try my best to understand that everybody's point of view, your point of view, if I say guns are bad, nobody should have guns, and you're saying no, guns are great, and you shoot me with a gun, guess who wins the argument? So I'm going to respect your point of view, no matter what it is, because if you truly believe in it, it can have a life-altering effect on me, whether I believe it or not. So I respect everybody's point of view, and I have to learn from everybody. But also, a couple of things is, when you say privilege, it sends a ping down my body, because I feel like, in my mind, what makes more sense, because when I hear privilege, it feels like and I'm not saying it to you, and I know it's the vernacular of the time, but it feels like a passive aggressive high horse, right? Like, I'm so sorry that everything is going to be better for me than you. I would almost look at it better for me as this is how I keep from going insane in my own mind, is that you definitely get a benefit of a doubt higher than me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But as far as a privilege goes, there's somebody out there that's darker than me, and I'm gonna get a benefit of a doubt above them because I'm light skinned on paper, right? But they're gonna outwork me. They're gonna out funny me. They're gonna out whatever. Unless I step my game up, then my light skin privilege doesn't mean shit. So like me saying I have light skin privilege or whatever category of privilege I want to get. Again, I think it's like a misnomer. It's like a label. It's kind of an empty label. Will I get the benefit of the doubt?
Did you just say privilege was an empty label?
Well, I hear what you're saying though, because like,
but are you hearing the distinction that I'm making?
I think it's a tough thing for everyone, because like obviously white people are in a place like where specifically right now, but like some people over time, like there is to your I by the way equate privilege the exact same way, which is I get more of the benefit of the doubt than both of you.
Well,
period. And I think that is a
privilege
I think
is
that
bigger
is
than
a
just
privilege,
race, though.
but also
Why are we making
yeah,
it?
yeah,
Why
but
are we
I'm
reducing
saying
it
that
to race?
I'm saying that's like because to me that's like also the ultimate privilege. If you get the benefit
That's like
of the
being
doubt.
in
I disagree.
That's
Race
like
ain't
being
the ultimate privilege.
That's like being in a
I
40-yard
do.
dash and saying he has long
I
leg
do think
privilege.
I do think there's other like
Nah,
to your
like,
point,
are you running
economic
faster
privilege.
or
I
what?
think there's economic privilege. I think there's intellectual privilege. Like
Yeah.
certainly. So I hear what you're saying too, because my best friend has the same issue especially when we're talking like race stuff or whatever, and we're talking about some of the stuff at the top of the podcast. But she's like, I'm tired of people like talking about black people like it's all the same. She's like, I have money. I want to see more black people. Like I want to have this conversation that's like black people out here getting money, and it's not just like, you know, whether you wherever you stand or whatever with us, like being seen to your I think kind of what you're saying a little bit too is like just like separate like and that there's no way to not necessarily like close that gap because I always have more privilege like collectively. I think that's like sort of what you're saying versus like a very sort of microcosm of that. But I think that is a privilege, and I also think, I mean, I would take also any kind of thoughts you guys have too on then how to reframe. Like if it's like white people should be talking about, then we have the benefit of the doubt because it is in the zeitgeist, right? It is like vernacular, but I do think we had to close. We had to come to a close with a word. But like I think it comes from hopefully more good intention now to acknowledge it, but that doesn't mean it's right? Like it's just like maybe it's the black square of the moment to be like, yes, we're privileged.
But privilege word, just the word is unearned advantage.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want us to ignore that privilege does technically mean that you do have the upper hand, but it wasn't something that you earned. So, for example, right-handed people have a privilege, right? Because most things are actually created for people with right-handed. Yes. So I'm not like, and that's why I mean, like, when I hear privilege, I think of opportunity. Why? An opportunity for someone with an unearned advantage to help someone who did not have that. Also, that looks like literary. When you talked about intelligence or like intellect, being able to read and write is a huge fucking privilege, right? Yeah. Because we did not pick where we would be raised, whether we have a school within walking distance.
Also, just your IQ
or
can be.
Right. Because that's a cognitive type of privilege, and that goes into even ability, right? Yeah. Because some of us have physical abilities. That's a privilege. You're able to walk. That's a privilege. And what the world is designed for us. Yeah. Most things are designed for us. And so, what does that mean? We use our unearned privilege to help those who don't have that same opportunity. So I think of that like some privileges are like man-made. Who the hell went around and told you to make scissors for right-handed people only, right? Fucked up situation. Just what we're dealing with. So right-handed people be fucking, kind-hearted when you're working with people with left. And that's all it really means is like, what it means is that a person does not have the upper advantage while someone does. That's an opportunity for humility, grace, whatever. You know what I mean? Because we talked about it, right? Like whiteness, right? So even though somebody may be on a different level of whiteness, that means that you have the ability and the experience that our soul signed up for to come here and experience that and then understand like, Joe, even though I have so many things against me, man, shit, I can read. Damn, I actually have access to clean drinking water. That's a huge fucking privilege. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Living in America is a privilege. Yeah.
Dog, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just certain shit.
Yeah.
Like, we be talking about, like, damn, the Wi-Fi, like, it's a motherfucker who ain't touch a phone in their life.
Yes.
I will also say it probably, again, from my point of view, right? And I think it's an excellent point that you brought up about, it's a right-handed world. That's a privilege. LeBron James is left-handed. Writes with his left, reads with his left, brushes his not all the way there hair with his left.
Damn, you brought up the man lying.
Coming for
It's
people's
hard to miss. I'm
baldness.
sorry, LeBron, if you're just now finding out. But please promote, like, share, and subscribe. But he shoots with his right hand. So, yeah, he grew up in a world where he took it into his own hand. I think, personally, I don't like the word privilege because, again, in my mind, it's a looking down upon me. Whether you feel bad or good or indifferent about your privilege, you're still, that word is putting you above me, and I don't like to put anybody above me unless you earn it. If we're on a stage, if we're in an all-white room, all-black room, all whatever room, if you've been in the game 20 years, if you already got your HBO special, if you just started 2 years ago, I don't care. In my heart of hearts, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna get my last, and I'm gonna do my best.
But you just said it,
to be the showstopper that night. But I don't care what scenario we're in. If you're white and we're in a white room, I'm not going to be like.
But you said earn.
They're about
but
to
you just
kill
said
me
earn, Mike. There's a
because we're
difference.
But I'm saying I don't give anybody the privilege. I don't care who you are.
You talking about give.
I don't care.
You don't give. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand, though, brother. You're not in a position to give. You don't have the privilege to give privilege.
But that's through your spectrum.
No. That's a fact. We're talking about.
I take mine.
What ability are you giving?
Take mine is what I'm saying.
You take privilege?
I don't care what anybody's giving me. I'm going to take mine. I moved to Chicago with $600 and one friend that had a couch for 3 months. Everything that I got out here, which isn't much, I took. I didn't ask. I didn't wait. I didn't petition. I took it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to give anybody a level up in my view. And when it comes to, like,
it's like the dynamic of helping too, right? And like even, of saviorship and all that kind of stuff of like.
I just don't like the word. I don't like the verbiage of a privilege. If we're in, if anybody challenges me to a race on the block, I don't care if Usain Bolt's twin brother happens to be one of the races. If I don't believe in myself to win, I'm just gonna say, nah, never mind. I don't want to play this game. Otherwise, if I'm showing up to win, and I'm not gonna ask about nobody. I hope you're privileged so that you feel twice as bad when I win. And if I lose, guess what? You're not gonna beat me the next time. Mm-hmm. And if I lose that, you're not gonna beat me the next time. If it's a game that I plan on winning, if it's a game that I'm not even going to say like the odds are stacked against me. I'm just going to be like, I don't want to play that particular game. It's not for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think
which is a winner's mentality, by the way, of like there's absolutely no excuse and no whatever. And I think I won't speak for you, but as someone that has set up the system to, and let me say, like, I didn't do this personally, but like I benefit from a system in which like white people, to full circle, like came in, set up a system of slavery to create privilege and to create separation and say like we are different and actually we are like the top. I do think it's important for white people to at least acknowledge that exists. Like whether it's the word or whatever, like we created a system so that we benefit. And
that is definitely,
you know what I'm saying? Like, so I think it's important to acknowledge the advantages that we receive from that.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that other people like need to sink into, and other people, that'll be a great clip. But like, that doesn't mean that anyone, I think, has an excuse for being, I don't want to say like disadvantaged, but to your point, there's a very, like, two things can be true, right? Like we did create
absolutely.
this, and yet I also do walk into jail and I'm like, you're responsible for your actions.
Yeah.
You're responsible for your thoughts and your body and yourself and that period, right?
Yeah.
Like, and we'll sit down, we'll have conversations about like when it was like 1 degree out, like they like bust these guys out to like potentially have dates and like hearings that didn't happen because no one else showed up. Like no one told them that. So they're up at 4 a.m. They're in like a gym, cuffed up, like chained up and for 4 hours. Like with it, like that's not by accident,
Yeah.
right? And at the same time, we had yoga that night, and so mostly we just turned that into like a talk, conversation or whatever. But like, so what do you need to process it again? Because like right now, like you were also, to your, I think, very explicit point, like responsible for you. Like in your response to those things and your ability to sort of like overcome and move past those things.
This isn't a Reaganomics pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Oh, because that's what you was giving the vibe of.
Kinda
You
like,
gave the
right,
vibe
right.
of
But
Booker T.
but-
Washington
but-
At the
over.
same time,
Right.
at the
But
same
if you're
time,
not, if you don't have accountability,
at the
then
same
what?
time, if you don't have
any personal agency, then what?
Well, personal agency and accountability is different than systemic stuff, right? Because one is when you're born in, the other one is the actions for yourself.
Right.
So that's what I mean. Like,
But if you
you
always
can't
have I
pick
think
what
you're
you
trying
can't
to say
pick what
is-
caste system you're born
winning,
in.
without winning the game, you can't
Sorry, I'm
change
just
the
looking at the
rules, though, right?
Like, but do you know what a caste system is, though? It doesn't allow for mobility. So it doesn't matter what you do, you're still going to die what you were born.
If
Well,
Do you want to talk about a caste system?
yeah,
Like, because that is true.
So you're saying there's a limitation that no matter what you do or how hard you try,
Yes.
how fat you
Still
have a
nigga,
limit.
yes.
You have
Still nigga. Jay-Z, yes, still nigga.
But you're saying you will be perpetually unsuccessful?
Why did you associate nigga with being unsuccessful?
I think he's asking if you are.
So
don't play.
So ask the question directly. What is the exact question? Because that's what I just said.
That's a shell game.
The juxtaposition.
That's a shell game. Are we talking about the words or are we talking about the mentality? Because you're saying still nigga. Sure. But there's a cap to your success.
Wait,
Is that what
are
you're
we
saying?
talking about a caste system or are we talking about what we talking about something completely different?
I know what a caste system is,
Okay.
but I'm asking what are you saying about your potential, you Kyrie the Comic's potential success level is that you can only get to level 6.5, period, no matter what you do?
No. I don't think that we're talking about the same thing.
Okay.
Because success,
okay.
right? Because success for me is something that like that's a spiritual thing, right? For me, like it's linked. So that is something that no man can take from me, right?
Right.
Helping my people, success.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like the idea that reaching a materialistic level, there is a cap on that, right? Because of what I personally believe spiritually, right? So like I don't even want the things that I can't get, right? But I do understand that I can't, because I'm not in that system. I don't want to abide by that system because that system has a different level of morality and rules that because of my spiritual beliefs, I'm not going to abide by. You know what I mean? So like, that's just what that is. You're familiar with all the comedians and the stories they come out with. The games that some people play because I don't actually need to ever play those type of moral games where if I'm wrong, if I'm right, if I'm hanging around people that are doing certain things because I'm so tied into what's for me and the things that come with that. Like I'm not even measuring my success in a system that is different. Right? But no matter if it's like Bitcoin, right? My success ain't measured in any type of system that is controlled by man-made stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to your point, I always feel like Kyrie could always be successful, but I also know that when I play other people's games, even the game that I'm born in, right? Because like I'm still in this world, I'm not of this world. So like I do understand that there are games that I did not set the rules for. I didn't create the ref.
Games
and like,
did not set the rule for.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm a ball sometimes the hardest I can.
Yeah.
But like my idea of success isn't tied to something that's the rules are created by men.
No, absolutely. And I think we're riding on different streets but going the same direction. Because I didn't put a monetary value on success. I just said success. So however you label success, but whether there's crabs in the barrel, whether there's a weight vest, whether there's overseers, whether there's systemic, any kind of levels of perpetual keeping you down or whatever, I have to believe that I am captain of my own destiny for my own mental fortitude. And I believe in both of you. And what you guys doing right now is tremendous, and you know, we're going to boost that up. But to reach whatever success means to you, to the highest levels, for me, I have to believe that that's possible, or else there's really no point in a lot of it. And I mean, monetarily, there's niggas that are reaching the top. It's really hard to do, obviously. And there's people that are reaching the top of the academic square. There's people that are reaching the top of the spiritual atmosphere and everything. I just can't believe that no matter what's in front of me, I have to believe that I am still how hard I work, how much time I put in, being prepared for an opportunity and getting lucky and being available enough to even get the chance to be lucky. I have to believe that I am in charge of that to a degree, to a large degree, in order to keep me even going. You know what I mean, bro? Otherwise, yeah, bro.
And you know what it is? It's like living in victimhood. Some people let stuff happen to them. Some people let life happen to them. And so like that mentality, like she was saying, you have a winner's mentality for sure. But I just could never be oblivious to the system in which I'm winning in. Because I know that even in me winning, man, if I would have had like, what if my mama was on crack? Would I still have this mentality? Damn, that was a privilege. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like I always look to the people to the left and the right of me in the neighborhood that I'm in. I'm like, fuck. I'm still privileged. Like, yeah, I got this mentality, but damn, that mentality happened because nobody ever, you know what I'm saying, drugged me. And then that shit had me spiraling out in the street. Or shit, I got this mentality because shit, I did get diagnosed. So I knew what my mental health background was like. So I had certain experience that I, you know what I'm saying, because I had certain knowledge. And I'm like, fuck, now I'm looking at people who didn't know that. Now they, you know what I mean, they like, because they didn't know their mental health background. They didn't understand what it meant. They started substance abusing. Now they spiraled out. And yeah, they're responsible for their actions. But because they had no knowledge of mental health and shit like that, they ended up in jail.
So
you know what I mean?
To kind of spiral back to something we were bringing up earlier, here's my question. If Joe Jackson isn't putting foot to ass on, what is it, like 11 kids, do you still get one of, if not arguably the greatest musician / entertainer / dancer of all time? If he didn't have to go through the trauma, the abuse, the overworking, the mental abuse, the everything, and then pick another artist. There's
should you go through any industry?
For this particular scenario, we're taking Michael Jackson. Now you take away all that abuse and everything that led up to the level of abuse that he went through.
Shit, you don't get Thriller.
You see what I'm like? Where I'm trying to go, Kyrie?
No, for sure. We talked about LeBron James. He didn't have no daddy growing up.
We know under that pressure. If you take all that pressure away that you had to go through, do you still have the fire that you have now to push you to be like, I'm going to read, I'm going to do my knowledge, I'm going to be prepared mentally for these scenarios, for this conversation, for do. That's another thing that my black benefit of the doubt is that I'm going to be fucked up. There's going to be XYZ. So when I do come across a certain way in a conversation or in a scenario or whatever, then it's like, oh, where did this come from? Like, it works. It can work both ways. Like, your education level and the way you talk, I don't look at you on the street and say, I bet she's giving back to the community by working through the prison industrial complex. Like, nah, it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I think, all right, she just killed an endangered Galapagos turtle or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, that's a nice
so
island.
She can have an ashtray.
Oh, you use the shell as an ashtray?
Fuck the turtles. Fuck the turtles.
But you know what I mean?
I love Ninja Turtles.
If you take away that that struggle, like some of the name any fighter.
No.
That won all the belts that had a good upbringing.
I think that's why, to your point, so many comedians now are like, I'm bipolar, I'm dyslexic, I'm what, like, or everybody, not just comedians, but everybody. And to a degree, I think that's helpful to like get to know yourself. And
what's that degree? Like describe that degree a little bit more, because there has to be
I think there's just like, again, I think just like white people being like, nah, I'm not white, or like I'm one
trying to find a struggle
or whatever. Yeah, it's like trying to
don't duck your privilege
to a struggle. And
no, for real, don't duck your fucking privilege. Well, I be mad as hell when I see an able-bodied person go out of their way to be a dickhole, bro. It ain't no ramp there. Don't be no dickhole. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also, like you said, right, like. We all have, I think, a degree of privilege, right? Like a different kind. When we're talking race relations, or we're talking like jail and stuff, like that's the only that's when I use that word, like very specifically to me. Like when I get pulled over on the way back from jail regularly. Yeah. And the cop walks up to the car, and I have physically watched cops recoil when they see me. Like that's privilege, right? So like that's the only one that I like.
That's the benefit of the doubt that all right, we'll let you. Here's
well, I mean, not the only one, but that is one that I will.
But shit, you know what's wild though?
Acknowledge.
I had it, so I never thought I had that. but I had it happen. I was doing some work with No Mas Muertes down in like southern Arizona near the border, and like leave medical supplies out, water for people. This is years ago before the situation is what it is now, and. It was the first time like going through a federal checkpoint, and them seeing me, and they like, "Oh, you get the fuck out the way," and I'm like, "What? You don't care?" And like I had some white homies with me, and they like was like Italian, so they got a little bit of tint to them, right? Dark hair, and they like, "Yo, where the fuck is your parents from?" And I was like, "Oh shit, I'm safe because I'm a nigga." The first time at a checkpoint, you don't care who I am, you don't want to see my ID. They was asking the motherfuckers for passport information, where your mama from, where your mama live at. I'm like, damn, dog, this is privilege. Situational as fuck, but still privilege.
Here's something that frightens me is that I think everybody. So the human condition, being born, having a spark of life in your body, and a conscious mind means you inherently have XYZ struggles through life. Living is hard for any and everybody.
Hell yeah, struggle is there.
Betty, and now here we wear our struggle. But if you're for instance, if you're a straight white guy, your struggle is not having a struggle, which is
a visible one at least.
It is a frustration because here's what happens in my mind is that you're not getting rid of racism, racist thoughts, racist vibes, racist upbringings, right? But you can move it indoors if you make speech elite or speech naughty or certain things are off the table. And so what ends up happening is that now it's a group of straight white guys or privileged white males off somewhere hiding in the dark going, can you believe this shit, yo? Like I can't even be a straight white guy. That's happening. Yeah. That's happening at dinner tables. Yes. And guess what happens after the dinner table? It moves into the C-suite executive. We're about to make decisions room.
Yes. Moves to Alec.
And you don't. Everything doesn't have to be said. Most communication is nonverbal. We all know what's going on. If she's not here, I'm in the rooms with black folks, and guess what happens? We get to talking about white folks sometimes, and there's certain people they're gonna act certain ways, and there's certain people that aren't gonna ever want to be in a room with white folks because they feel a certain type of way, and that's gonna happen on the other side. Anything you do, just mentally prepared that somebody else is doing it. If you're talking shit about somebody's out there talking shit about you. And if we're in a room going, man, these white folks, blah, 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 then there's some white guys with some bread, influence, stock, middle management jobs, CEOs, CFOs, COOs, and they're going, I can't believe these cocksuckers made The Little Mermaid fucking black with box braids.
Wait. Did you just say they were sitting in the CFO suite of all these controlling positions, and they was shocked about who made them people, who made Little Mermaid black? Y'all did, nigga. Because where was the black people when we was having those conversations?
They wasn't in the decision room.
And so lies in the difference, right? Because you I'll let you give your example, and in your example, I'm showing you that in your example, the ability to impose an image that is shared around the world, that decision still lies around y'all homies. That shit still don't sit on us, right? Because what you talked about was people who got feelings. They got a lot of feelings, but not a lot of decision power. And in that decision power, we're talking about how people perceive each other. It's people who ain't never seen a black person in their life, but they have an idea of black because of the media that they consume. And who's behind the media that they consume? Not black people, because we're not in decision-making positions.
But for Disney, no, we're not. I don't want a black mermaid. I want a black artist and a black writer to make a black character out the ether.
But brother, that ain't how media works.
I don't want to. How is it? What in 2024?
Disney? Did you just hear what Disney is?
2024.
Now, yeah. Now tell me about Disney.
You can literally go to you can make whatever you want right now. You don't need Disney. You don't need anything.
So you don't need decision makers.
I don't need Fox. I don't need.
Why? Who told you that
ABC.
Fox was the only one?
This is all. I needed these cameras. I needed these microphones. I needed these lights, and I'm doing this. Sure, I'm putting it out on platforms that are owned by other people, but I'm not asking permission. I make media. Don't change Little Mermaid. Don't change Scooby Doo. Don't change nothing. Make make something that I'm proud of for black. They got that new movie out with Buddy. I can't remember his fucking name, but he's an author, and it has insecurity. I forget the sweetie's name, but it's basically about coonery. And he's like, it's that book. Oh, I want to look it up so bad. It's a new movie that's out right now. And basically the brother is like a New York Times bestselling author, but his shit's going down. And then he finds out like the hottest book on the shelf is oh, honey, sweetie child, I'm about to woo woo woo. And it's a whole bunch of buffoonery, right? And he's like, oh, okay, that's what y'all want? Well, I'm going to out buffoonery this coonery. And he goes extra super duper 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 hard.
Making like Medea.
But like 28 times worse, right? And then it shoots to the top of the charts. Everybody's just gobbling it up. And I haven't watched the movie. I really want to get to it, and it's gonna be playing like right now in the thing in the wait for the edit. But like that's what I truly honestly want to see a black artist come up with a black idea. Don't change somebody else's story from the way that they made it to me, because like we was just bringing this up. That's not diversity showing me the end product. Diversity is in the C-suite. And if you're not going to let us in your C-suite because of lack of privilege or lack of benefit of the doubt or lack of opportunity or lack of whatever it is, start your own C-suite. There's a dude named Marquise Browley. He's a YouTuber. He has in the millions of subscribers. And he interviews, he highlights like technology or whatever. Like he's on the cutting edge of the new, like Tesla gives him all the new stuff, and whoever he's on his job. You know what I mean? Like I want to see that go in the other avenue. Show me the faces that look like me and you making our own stuff. Don't change somebody else's stuff. I mean, it's kind of how I feel about it. But please give me y'all closing arguments before we.
I was gonna say I'm not trying to be rude. I thought I had a 10 o'clock, but I have a 9 o'clock. So
yeah.
No, I don't have a closing argument. I don't feel like this is my place to have a closing argument.
I don't even think it's an argument, man. I think
just closing thoughts. I know what you're saying, but
no, I just really think that the reason I talk so much about privilege is because I believe so much in humility.
Yeah.
And I don't want someone anywhere in the world to feel like they don't have enough to create change, whether it be locally or whether it be globally. So like, and that's why that's why I fuck with you, because I understand that idea of victimhood. That's a neighborhood you can live in for real, dog.
Yeah.
It ain't as ghetto as adulthood, but like victimhood is some shit you don't want to get caught up in. And so as important as it is for me to not live in victimhood, it's important for me to live in awareness that like, damn, Joe, even my ability to think about that is like a privilege, right? And so like I always want to be able to approach people with that humility of knowing like, Joe, I could have been you. Or in another life, I could have been you. Or I didn't always have to have my OG. Or I didn't always have to have my grandma. You know, whatever it was that helped hold me down, I didn't always have to have it, and I could be like the next person next to me.
Absolutely. I appreciate your perspective more than I appreciate your perspective. I appreciate your ability to talk and hold yourself in a room with different opinions or a different view, and still conduct yourself as a man, as a grown-up, and as a strong brother in this world. And again, I think we're driving to the same destination. We just might be taking a couple of different little side streets, and I think all three of our perspectives are valuable. Please, before we get up out of here, I want y'all to drop y'all socials, but I also want y'all to speak real quick to this project that you guys got going on that I definitely want to support and check out and subscribe and everything. But let the people know. We'll put a flash up but let the people know how they can find you for this project and how they can find you on your own socials.
My socials are Kathryn Gong. My name is Kathryn Gongaware. Gong is just an easier access, and also Instagram didn't allow for that many characters when I had it, so you want to talk old. So I'm Kathryn Gong, Kathryn. It's a weird one. And the project that we've been working on is Beyond Bars. You can follow it at Beyond Bars Pod. There's like 10 people, and 2 of them are us right now. But we're dropping our first 3 episodes in the next maybe 2 weeks,
okay.
And then it'll be weekly.
Your first 3.
Yeah, we're dropping 3 at a time. Trilogy.
Ooh.
Well, no, the first
three,
trilogy.
Just so
that you can like
people don't fuck with one, because like we said, we have a variety of different people on, people can get maybe a couple different doses or listen all the way through to all 3. That's obviously ideal. And then we'll be releasing weekly from there. And all I would add to that is like, as we build this, we know we're building it. Like, I don't know how it was when you started this, and we'll obviously also have you on the pod. And thank you for having us. This was so fun, and I honestly would love to stay talking. I'm sorry that I have to.
I'll have this conversation with y'all without the cameras or the microphones.
Yeah, for sure.
That's real talk.
I'm gonna take y'all to my shows just so we can continue to. I need to. It's very. Thank you for having this very interesting conversation. But what was I? Oh, if you do listen, if you do tune in and you're like, this is not what I thought it was, or not what I'm actually getting out of this, like. We're still building that. We're still creating that. So if there's things that you're like, no, I wish they would have asked guests this, and this is actually more interesting. Yeah. We'll take all feedback with, a grain of salt.
I love watching the process.
Yeah, because not everyone needs to have a loud opinion. But if you do have one, we'd be open to hearing it. Thank you for having us and for any level of support. That's all I have to say.
Hell yeah. Kyrie, put it out there.
Kyrie the comic. You can find me Kyrie Johnson on Facebook. Ew, last name. I'm so close to Cassius Clay. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I got so many different things. But Kyrie the comic on social media. Kyrie KYRIEDA public school baby. Kyrie the comic. And then please support our podcast Beyond Bars. Like she said, we creating this thing as we fly. Yeah. And like to what you were saying earlier, brother, like we going down the same street and we actually not supposed to be in the same car. That's why I don't even talk about a very religious background, because I want you to know that no matter what you was raised, no matter what book you used to find the Most High, it was still love in it. So no matter if you in Kathryne's car, you in my car, you in your car, we're going to the same spot. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's so important, like you say, like how we treat each other when we don't agree. That tells
you a lot about a person.
Your humanity, dog. You know what I mean?
A lot about a person.
Real shit. So like, please just support us as we continue to make humans realize that other humans are human.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Real shit.
That's so dope. So we're gonna pop up that info. Make sure that you are following that content one more time with the name.
Beyond Bars.
Beyond Bars. Check out your boy Kyrie on the roast battle. It was doing numbers. He was eating lunch. Yo, he ate somebody.
He was eating lunch.
He ate somebody peanut butter jelly sandwich. That might have came out wrong. I didn't mean it like that, but he took somebody lunch money for real. The little Friday pizza. He snatched that off of somebody. You know who you are. I got love for you, but you know what happened. You were there. But, yo, I'm Mike Knight on all the things. Make sure click one of the things to like, subscribe, catch another video. We're gonna keep coming keep popping out episodes, y'all. So y'all stay tuned in. I hope you really enjoyed this one as much as I enjoyed being here in real life. Yo, this was fire, and there's gonna be many more. I can't wait to have these fine folks back. Mike Knight, Real Rap Podcast. Peace.
Fire.
Yay! Thank you so much for having us. I'm so sorry.